Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi takes part in the Quad Summit in Delaware in the United States. The Prime Minister talks of establishing a rules-based international order. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds talks with the US President Joe Biden. He says that the comprehensive global strategic partnership between the two countries covers all areas of human endeavor, convergence of interests and vibrant people-to-people ties. Sri Lanka's presidential election concludes peacefully. Counting of votes is underway. Nationwide curfew imposed until 6 in the morning. Tens of thousands of people told to evacuate. Earthquake hit Japanese region of Ishikawa as unprecedented rains trigger floods and landslides. And in cricket, Bangladesh falters in a mammoth 515-run chase for victory, and India is in complete control of the Chepauk test. The leaders of the Quad nations, India, the United States, Japan and Australia, met in Delaware for the 6th time. The Quad continues to focus on concrete benefits and practical cooperation for the Indo-Pacific region. Key challenges confronting the international community and aspects related to development, peace, security remain on the agenda. The Quad leaders, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the US President Joe Biden, the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, and the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida posed for a photograph ahead of the Quad meeting. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his opening statement at the Quad Summit, said that the Quad is working together on the basis of shared democratic values for the entire humanity.
हमारी बैठक ऐसे समय हो रही है जब विश्व तनावों और संघर्षों से घिरा हुआ है। ऐसे में साझा डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज के आधार पर क्वाड का मिलकर साथ चलना पूरी मानवता के लिए बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। हम किसी के खिलाफ नहीं हैं। हम सभी एक रूल्स बेस्ड इंटरनेशनल ऑर्डर, संप्रभुता और क्षेत्रीय अखंडता के सम्मान और सभी मसलों के शांतिपूर्ण ढंग से हल निकालने का समर्थन करते हैं।
Prime Minister also said that the Indo-Pacific is a shared priority and shared commitment of Quad leaders. He thanked President Biden for expanding cooperation in an unprecedented way in every direction.
Free, open, inclusive और प्रॉस्परस इंडो पैसिफिक हमारी साझा प्राथमिकता और साझा प्रतिबद्धता है। हमने मिलकर हेल्थ सिक्योरिटी, क्रिटिकल एंड इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजीज, क्लाइमेट चेंज, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग जैसे क्षेत्रों में कई सकारात्मक और समावेशी इनिशिएटिव लिए हैं। हमारा मैसेज साफ है, क्वाड इज हियर टू स्टे, टू असिस्ट, टू पार्टनर एंड टू कॉम्प्लीमेंट।
Addressing the Quad Summit, the US President Joe Biden announced a new initiative for the Indo-Pacific. He said that as democracies, Quad nations hold importance in building the future.
Today, we're announcing a series of initiatives to deliver real, positive impact for the Indo-Pacific. That includes providing new maritime technologies to our regional partners so they know what's happening in their waters, launching cooperation between Coast Guards for the first time, and expanding the Quad Fellowship to include students from Southeast Asia.
The Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that the Quad plays a crucial role in strengthening security and peace in the region, including climate change.
Partnerships like the Quad are crucial, providing us with an avenue to discuss shared responsibilities and goals and strengthening the enduring relationships necessary for lasting stability, which is why we commit today to continue to work with our Indo-Pacific neighbours, our friends and our partners. Prime Minister Modi will be hosting us next year, and I look forward to that as well.
The Japanese Prime Minister Kishida said that free and open international order is under threat, for which we need to work together.
Security environment surrounding ourselves are becoming increasingly severe, and a free and open international order based on the rule of law is under threat. Under this backdrop, it is ever more important for us, the Quad, who share values such as freedom and democracy, to continue to demonstrate our firm commitment to our common vision of FOIP, the free and open Indo-Pacific, to the international community. In order to realize a FOIP, it is crucial to coordinate with the regional countries and to materialize our vision by concrete actions.
When India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi met the President of the United States, Joseph Biden, on the sidelines of the Quad Summit in Delaware on Saturday. In a special gesture, President Biden hosted the meeting at his home in Wilmington. The Prime Minister conveyed his appreciation for the unparalleled contributions made by President Biden in giving an impetus to the India-US partnership. Prime Minister Modi warmly recalled his state visit to the United States in June of 2023 and President Biden's visit to India in September 2023 for the G20 Leaders Summit. The Prime Minister noted that the visits have imparted greater dynamism and depth in the India-US partnership. Prime Minister emphasized that India and the United States today enjoy a comprehensive global strategic partnership that covers all areas of human endeavor, driven by shared democratic values, convergence of interests, and vibrant people-to-people ties. The two leaders discussed ways to further enhance bilateral cooperation in areas of mutual interest, and they exchanged views on global and regional issues, including the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. They expressed confidence in the strength and in the continuing resilience of the relationship and their belief in its significance for all areas of human endeavor between the two countries. US President Joe Biden shared photographs of his meeting with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on X. In a social media post, Biden wrote that the US partnership with India is stronger, closer, and more dynamic than at any time in history. Biden also was quite emotional in this post. He spoke of Prime Minister Modi whenever they meet. He is struck by their ability to find new areas of cooperation, and that today was no different, is what he said. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi shared photographs as well of the meeting with President Biden on social media post, where he thanked Biden for hosting him at his residence in Greenville, Delaware. And he termed his talks as extremely fruitful, as both the leaders had an opportunity to discuss regional and global issues during this meeting. The Indian diaspora gave Prime Minister Modi a grand welcome at the Hotel DuPont in downtown Wilmington. The atmosphere was electric as people from various US cities came together, waving flags and chanting in unison. As he stepped into the opulent hotel lobby, Prime Minister Modi was greeted with enthusiastic cheers and warm smiles. The Indian community had organized a colorful cultural program showcasing dances as well as music that highlighted the rich heritage of India. The Prime Minister engaged with them, listening to their stories and aspirations. The diaspora expressed their gratitude to Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his efforts to strengthen the ties between India and the United States. The evening was filled with laughter, song and dance as Prime Minister Modi enjoyed the performances that reflected the diverse traditions of India, from classical dance to contemporary fusion. It was a moment of celebration and connection, bridging cultures and reaffirming the strong bonds of the Indian diaspora in the United States. Well, upon his arrival at the Philadelphia airport, Prime Minister Modi also received a warm welcome by the Indian diaspora. DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh spoke to members of the diaspora.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in the US for a 3-day visit, his first stop was Wilmington in Delaware. I'm right now in Wilmington. He was, received by the Indian community with a lot of enthusiasm. I have members of the Indian community. Sir, what is the sort of excitement amongst the Indian diaspora here on arrival of Prime Minister?
Oh, this is an unbelievable event for us in Delaware, and all of us are truly experiencing a very magical event, something that was unthinkable several years ago. Thanks to President Biden for inviting Modi ji to Delaware, which is a very small state. However, does hold a lot of sway because of Biden's presidency. So thanks to that presidency for having us experience this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which I didn't think will ever happen. So truly a magical day for all of the Indians in Delaware and all of the Indian diaspora here in Delaware.
Okay. How have things changed? You know, we've seen for the Indian diaspora, when you've been in the US, living in the US for a long time, do you, as in part of the diaspora, have things changed for you?
Things have changed a lot. So I think 25 years ago, India was not really on the map. Not many people knew about where this country is and whatever, you know. But now, with the growing population of Indians in the US, I think people are getting noticed, and they are kind of, we get to interact and socialize a lot more with the local communities over here.
And I think Modi ji has brought India to the forefront. He has showed that India is the best in terms of technology, healthcare, you name it. Yep. And he has put India on the map, and that makes all of us very important here. And it makes us feel very proud that India is again back on the forefront.
As Madam was saying that, he's put India on the world map. Indians were always very hardworking people, both either in the technology sector or even blue-collar workers. But with the rising stature of the country, do you think that directly affects how the world sees you, the Indian diaspora?
Yes, definitely. You know, India has elevated all of us, even though we are not Indians outside living in the country. We are elevated to the highest level. And we see that we are witnessing the golden age of India that we thought we read in history books during Gupta dynasty. Now it's happening again during Modi's administration, and we are very, very happy, excited, thankful that this is happening during our lifetime.
So you can see the sort of excitement and enthusiasm in the Indian diaspora here. The Prime Minister, though, interacted very briefly with them as he begins his official program, bilateral meetings with President Biden, with Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Anthony Albanese, and after that the Quad Leaders Summit. But the interaction with the Indian community and the diaspora does leave them with a sense of ownership as the Prime Minister adds a personal touch. With cameraman Praveen Johar, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Wilmington, Delaware.
What's still to come here on DD India News Hour? India's Prime Minister to address the Summit of the Future at the United Nations on September 23. India sends humanitarian aid to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And US citizens begin casting their votes, the first in-person votes for the presidential election.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. And now Arun Sharma is joining us from Wilmington in the United States state of Delaware. Arun, first let's get some updates from you on the Quad Summit. What are the outcomes so far, if there are any that you have to report?
Morning, Mark. Indeed, we know this fact that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made his remarks as far as the Quad Summit is concerned. Now, a big update that is coming in. I mean, that's an interesting point of view. When both the leaders, the Japanese leadership, Australian leadership, US leadership, and Indian leadership, when they were, gathering for a photo op, a journalist primarily asked US President that what is the future of the Quad Summit? Will this end after the presidency of US President Biden or after the elections in November? So US President pointing out to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and, getting close to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, clearly indicated that, that Quad Summit is going to stay here way more or way ahead of November of this year. This shows or this reflects that how the top leadership firmly believes that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, can carry forward the bilateral platforms like Quad. And that was, of course, a great gesture coming in from the US President Joe Biden. And of course, when we talk about the Quad Summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has clearly mentioned this point that India is looking for open, safe, and Indo-Pacific. And on top of that, he clearly mentioned this point that this grouping, the Quad's grouping, is not to counter any other group, but yes, it is for the betterment of the people. It is the pro-people grouping, and of course, the focus is that this grouping is going to stay to assist and to work for the human development. Message, of course.
Right. Arun, also, could you fill us in with, the outcomes of the bilateral meetings? We know that the Prime Minister has met the US President, and there's a joint fact sheet that the White House has released. India, too, has released a statement. Just put this into context. It's an important meeting. There's a lot of that has come out of it, and also the other bilateral meetings that it's on the agenda for the Prime Minister.
Absolutely, Mark. So, first of all, the kind of body language and chemistry, the personal chemistry that both the leaders shared today when Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Biden met. And, as far as the outcome is concerned, yes, of course, the White House has released this press statement or the release, which clearly mentions the point that India and USA will be collaborating and partnering as far as clean energy is concerned. And this, partnership will be at financing level, at the policy level, and will ensure that how can the clean and green energies and capacities related to green and green energies can be built. And, this commitment is roughly at around $1 billion of investment commitment that will be coming forward. And of course, this will be focused in countries like African countries so that green capacities, cleaner capacities can be built in underdeveloped and developing nations as well. So that is what the clear focus of the outcome is. So now India is not only focusing or focusing on only bilateral relationship, but it is also focusing on the fact that how can Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas, that means how can development for all can be done. And in this context, India and the USA will be partnering going forward as far as the building up the green capacities and the green capacities. We know this fact that the greener and clean capacities are costlier in nature, and that requires incentivization, tax benefits, incentives, and various interventions at the level. So now India and USA will be collaborating to build up the capacities. We also know this fact, Mark, that by 2030, India is aiming to reduce its carbon intensity by up to 50%. It is focusing on the fact that how can by how it focuses primarily on the fact that how can carbon intensities can be reduced, and more than 500 megawatts of capacities, gigawatts of the capacities need to be built as far as the greener or the cleaner energy is concerned. So in that context, this partnership between in the green energy area is going to be very significant.
Right, Arun, also moving forward to the Prime Minister's engagements in New York, put that into context for us. There is the diaspora event as well as the Summit of the Future.
So yes, two important components primarily. Number one is the Diaspora Connect. We know this fact that Narendra Modi will be engaging with the Indian diaspora. And we know this fact that there are close to 4.5 million Indians or the strong Indian community living in the USA, and they are into various diverse fields. The expectations are high as to what Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to address, because we know this fact that whenever he addresses on the foreign soil, he tries to highlight India's growth story, how India has made successes in various fields, and this makes the Indian diaspora or the Indian community very much proud. And if there is any announcement that can be made by Prime Minister Modi, because earlier we know this fact, countries like Brunei and Singapore, during the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit, a focus was on easy mobility, and how can mobility of the people, of the citizen of the respective countries can be ensured. And the expansion of the flight services that was announced during the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit. So will some kind of announcements be made? So Indian diaspora is eagerly waiting for that aspect. Second important component of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as you rightly mentioned, is on the future of the summit. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will clearly try to keep the voice of the global South on this international platform, whereby world leaders are going to gather. And India is becoming the voice of the underdeveloped nations, and the developing nations as well. And he'll be highlighting their concerns at a time when major economies are bringing up conflicts and the tensions on the international platform. It is India that is providing solutions and coming up with the solutions. So what can be a sustainable way? How can India give solutions to provide a sustainable, to achieve the sustainable developmental goals? That is what the idea of this future summit at the UN is concerned. And last but not the least, Mark, also the important component of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit is going to be engaging with the tech leaders. We know this fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be engaging and interacting with the top conglomerates and the business personalities of the tech sector. We know this fact that recently only India has done massive announcements as far as giving a boost to the ecosystems in the field of semiconductors, digital India, and the kind of digital public infrastructure that India is built upon. That clearly highlights the fact that how India is looking forward to partner and collaborate in the areas like AI, quantum mechanics, and of course the DPIs. So when Prime Minister engages with these tech leaders, the focus will be on how to bring in economic technology, the high-end technology, and of course the future-ready technology to India, and how can India can contribute in the global supply chains. So important components lined up as far as Prime Minister Modi's visit to US is concerned.
Okay, we leave that. Thank you very much, Arun Sharma, for joining us from Delaware with the latest. Moving on then to our next story. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address, as Arun was saying, the Summit of the Future at the United Nations on the 23rd of September. Amritpal Singh reports from the UN headquarters.
Nations, the apex global body which has often been criticized for failing humanity to address its current problems. The UN is now staging a summit of the future, which has an ambitious agenda to find solutions to the emerging problems, the solutions to problems which may affect humanity in the near future, to evolve a global consensus, a pact for future which solves humanity's problems. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing world leaders on Monday at the Summit of the Future, making a strong case for keeping international commitments on sustainable development, financing for the developing countries, and transforming the global governance architecture to make it more effective and equitable. But the big question is, will world leaders be able to keep their differences aside and find solutions to the problems of the world? But despite the cynicism, it is a welcome step by the UN, because as the Mahatma once said, the future depends on what you do today. With cameraman Sumit Naudyal, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India at the UN headquarters in New York.
And continuing with Amrit's reporting, well, he did actually catch up with a 6-year-old Ranveer Singh Sachdeva from India. And indeed, he's 6 years old. And Ranveer Sachdeva, in fact, is the youngest participant at the Summit of the Future. Let's listen to what he said.
As the United Nations holds the Summit of the Future here at the UN headquarters, one of the pillars of the summit is science and technology and innovation, where the UN will try and achieve a global digital compact to use technology for humanity equitably, to have youth participate in it. I have with me one kid who's not even a youth, he's just a 6-year-old child, Ranveer Sachdeva, who's traveled all the way from Delhi here in New York to participate in the Summit of the Future. He's written a book on AI. Ranveer, thank you very much for speaking to us. First of all, tell us, why are you here?
So I'm here traveling from India to, and I'm the world's youngest participant in the Summit of the Future, which is a part of the UN General Assembly. It mainly targets on how youth can impact the AI world for world peace. So I'm here to attend the Summit of the Future.
Okay. You're not even youth technically, you are just a child right now, a 6-year-old child. What grade do you study in?
I'm studying in third grade.
Okay. So how do you think as a child AI affects you or the other children of the world?
So AI affects us in many different ways.
Okay.
I've always said that our generation was born with AI because AI is all around us. We ask Alexa, right from your conversation with Alexa and Siri, to YouTube and Netflix suggesting you more songs and videos you like to watch. It's all AI.
Okay. And I understand you've written a book. What's the name of the book?
Are you born with AI?
Okay. And you say you are born with AI?
Yeah. Because, it's all around us.
Okay, great. So as Ranveer Sachdeva says, AI is all around us, but more importantly, he's here as the youngest participant here in the Summit of the Future. Well, if this is the future, then it looks bright. With cameraman Sumit Naudyal, this is Amrit Pal Singh for DD India at the UN headquarters in New York.
Indeed, a bright future there. DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh also visited New York University campus and he spoke to some young people there. Let's listen to what they think about emerging technologies.
Summit of the Future is taking place at the United Nations in New York. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing this summit. I have with me what looks like a bright future. Well, I'm talking about young students, Indian and American, at the prestigious New York University. And this red building that you see behind us, this imposing structure, is the Bob's Library, an iconic structure that is center of the academic and intellectual life of the students here. I have with me Alvina and her friends who are here to talk with us. Alvina, first, not very far from here at the United Nations headquarters, Summit of the Future is going to be deliberating on sustainable tomorrow. What are your thoughts on what this summit is going to be deliberating on, and what kind of action-oriented agenda would you like to see?
I would say, obviously, we, the millennials or the Gen Z, are really looking forward to leave a better planet for our next generations. And what we would hope is, obviously, all the global leaders and all the stakeholders to take some actionable insights to make sure that we are moving towards a more sustainable future for us.
In response to your question, I think the summit does bring a lot of hope for the future. In the past, a lot of summits that have occurred, I feel like, have not really achieved the goals that they have set. I'm hoping that this one will be more action-driven and really will solve all the problems that they have identified in previous summits.
All right.
Hi, I think the summit is mainly focusing on tackling the environmental issues, which is actually the need of the hour because India has been progressing in every other domain, especially under the current government.
All right. Another aspect of the Summit of the Future is the manner in which new emerging technologies are going to be looked at, are going to be adapted by different nations. AI is something that has been making a lot of buzz around the world.
As you talked about AI, so AI is one of the fastest growing technologies right now. And with the growth of AI, the growth of semiconductor industries has been massive. And with the recent success of the Semicon meeting in India, where everyone around the world came to India to promote the semiconductor industry and lead to the growth of AI, I'm pretty hopeful about it.
As an AI architect myself, I've seen that AI plays a really big role in a lot of industries, healthcare, any type of engineering, healthcare, AI plays a big role. So, as the name suggests, Summit of the Future, and it gives us a glimpse of the future.
I strongly feel that technological advancement is a value that is shared by both India and the United States. And Prime Minister in his speeches also mentions about sustainable development, technological advancement, and talks about Viksit Bharat.
All right, these were young, bright students, Indian and American, at the New York University, talking about the Summit of the Future and the potential of India-United States ties. With camera person Sumit Nodiyal, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
Well, still to come here on DD India News Hour. India highlights its commitment to youth action on a global scale. India's education and health ministries call for raising awareness of harmful effects of tobacco. And a joint military exercise between the armies of India and the US concludes. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Let's move on to our next story. In fact, a mega Indian diaspora event is being organized near New York City to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Some 15,000 Indian Americans are, across the United States are expected to reach Nassau County for this event. Shubhendu Ghosh reports.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting United States. Besides the strategic and diplomatic engagements at the Quad Summit and at United Nations, there is great anticipation around Prime Minister's connection with the Indian diaspora. In fact, I'm standing right now in front of this mega stadium, which is the Nassau Coliseum. This is going to be the venue for this very special diaspora program that Prime Minister would be engaging in. I have with me two members from the organizing committee of this mega program, Jagdish and Suhag. Jagdish, from you, I'd like to learn, what are the arrangements made? How are you planning to make this event a memorable one?
Well, it's going to be a memorable event. Just imagine the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to address New York after 10 years. After Madison Square Garden, this is the first time. We have been after Narendra Modi ji to come and address us, but because of his busy schedule, he couldn't do. Thank God, finally he has agreed. And just imagine, day after tomorrow, 15,000 strong New Yorkers plus people coming from 40 states of America. 500 organizations, 500 cultural program artists coming together for this mega event at this mega stadium to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Nassau County. And this is the first time ever any Prime Minister has come to Nassau County. So I was talking to the Nassau County executive, that is Mayor of Nassau County. He said, Jagdish, I'm so excited. 2 months back, I hosted a cricket team. And now I am hosting your Prime Minister, who is not only a popular leader of Bharat, but he's a global leader.
Right. Sohag, from you, I'd like to learn about the name of this mega program. I understand it is called Modi and US, but one can also read it as Modi and Us. Interesting play of words. How do you see it?
I think it's really up to whoever is saying it. You can say India and US and India and us, but it really means the same thing. It's about our connection with India. And it's about the Indian American diaspora being ambassadors of a cultural ethos of unity and diversity. And it's such a nice blending of cultures, because to be Indian is to be pluralistic, to be American is to be pluralistic. And that's why the US-India friendship is a natural one. And that's why Indian Americans are also a natural fit to their adopted country, the United States.
Right. I understand that almost a mini India is going to be created here in terms of the cultural performances, special presentations that are going to be here when the Prime Minister arrives at the stadium. Jagdish, take us through the special programs that you've lined up for Prime Minister when he's here.
Well, like I told you, 500 artists are going to perform here, and you will see a mini Bharat here. In Nassau County, in America, you will see a mini Bharat from, participating, performing Indian arts to Bollywood, patriotic song, you can say on and on. I think Sohagji can take a little more about the cultural program, what we have lined up.
Absolutely. Well, what's really wonderful about this program is that not only did it garner a tremendous response, so many internationally and nationally known artists who came forward to volunteer for the program. We have classical, folk, funky, you name it. We have every genre possible. We have north, south, east, west, and everything in between in terms of India. All of those cultures represented. So the theme of unity and diversity, it is through and through. We see it from the people that are coming, the audience, the participants, to the programming, to the volunteers. We are unity and diversity.
All right. On that note, finally, the kind of role that Indian America diaspora is playing in bringing the two great democracies and societies closer. How do you reflect on that thought through this event as well?
Well, I'll tell you, America being the oldest democracy and India being the largest democracy, we are natural partners. And I believe Indian American diaspora plays very important role in this. I call it people-to-people relation. The role Indian American have played for bilateral relation is amazing. Today you see we have congressman, governor of the state, and today if you see even Kamala Harris, who is half Indian, is contesting as a president of the United States. That shows how important Indian diaspora is in USA. We are very politically savvy, and hopefully in next few years you'll see Indian American as the president of United States.
All right, on that hopeful note, thank you very much for speaking with DD India. So the stage is all set for the mega diaspora event when Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaches United States here in New York at Long Island. Nassau Coliseum is all ready to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Indian diaspora with camera person Sumit Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
Well, Shubhendu Ghosh is now joining us from New York City with more on these stories. Shubhendu, I read that, far more than the capacity have registered for this event. And of course, as you said in your report, it's coming 10 years after Madison Square. But when we look at these events, Prime Minister started it with Madison Square 10 years ago. This is really what's led, isn't it, to the vibrant people-to-people ties coming into focus. I mean, people have been probably playing a role as the diaspora for the longest time, but really, it's really being recognized now as a far greater role in the relationship, the organized relationship between the two countries.
Absolutely, Mark. Organized relationship between the two countries, India and the United States. But also, we have to see it's remarkable the kind of demand there is for people to be able to see Prime Minister Narendra Modi in person in front of them. As you mentioned, that the stadium has a capacity of about 15 to 16,000. It's chock-a-block. The registration was far more in number. Not everyone could get a chance to be inside the stadium. This mega diaspora event that takes place tomorrow. And Madison Square and now the Nassau Coliseum, it's been 10 years. But this desire to be in the same hall as the Prime Minister, this yearning to be in his company, this opportunity to be able to see him in person, it really has not changed. And that is quite a remarkable aspect of Prime Minister's connect with the Indian diaspora. We saw earlier today the kind of welcome that he received, the energy and enthusiasm with which he was welcomed at Delaware and the engagements there. But this diaspora event at Nassau Stadium, the organizers say it's going to be remarkable in so many ways. And the bond between Prime Minister and the Indian diaspora, they say, is going to be showcased tomorrow.
Indeed, and when we look at the Diaspora Connect itself, I mean, it is the living bridge, after all, between India and all the other countries where our diaspora is. Really taking India's message, isn't it, to the world? Indian culture, tradition, art, history, you name it. That, at the end of the day, is the identity of what is Indian. Standing out in a sense. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, when you say living bridge, it really sums up the kind of role that the diaspora plays in today's interconnected world. Prime Minister, on different occasions, have called members of the Indian diaspora, Indian origin people, Indian students who are studying abroad as the true ambassador of India, Indian culture, Indian values, Indian ethics, art, culture, dance, you name it. And in that sense, talk about America, because we are in New York and the Indian American diaspora is in focus. They've done remarkably well for themselves through their talent, through their skill, through their hard work. They are one of the most educated sections of population in the United States of America. Their contribution to the economy is significant, disproportionately higher as compared to their percentage population vis-a-vis the American population. They're known for their values. They're known for their closeness to their culture that they bring in. They're very proud of their music, their dance, their colors. And all of those things really make the Indian diaspora distinct. But most importantly, the kind of connect that they established between the two countries as India and America chart their partnership for the decades ahead. Indian diaspora and their role is in focus.
Indeed. Let's move on to the other event of the Prime Minister, which is, of course, the Summit of the Future. Now, one looks at the future and thinks of, emerging technologies and AI. But, I mean, the future also is the issues of climate change and survival. To what extent is this kind of looking at the challenges with the available means to try and find the best kind of solution?
Right. Mark, often references to anything that is going to happen in the future is taken with a pinch of salt, in the sense that, we'll see when we come to it. But when you mention these challenges of sustainable development goals, which most countries will not be able to achieve the goals that were set in 2030, when we see the dire impact of climate change right to our doorstep, wherever in the world that you may be living in, whether it's extreme cold, extreme heat, or other calamities, whether we talk about the conflicts, the regional conflicts that refuse to die out, that there's no real effort for ceasefire. Talking about Ukraine, Gaza, and other places in the world. So we see that the current geopolitics really puts the future of the world in a very tricky situation. And this is the time for the world, for the nations to come together, reflect on what was promised, what was achieved, why we couldn't achieve what we couldn't achieve, and what can we do to make sure that the idea of sustainable future does not just remain a theoretical concept, but we indeed are able to give a better world to our generation in so many ways. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address at the UN summit is going to be hugely significant, because he's not just going to be presenting India's perspective, but also the concerns and the voice of the global south, which is something that we're all waiting to hear how he articulates that idea, because we know that of all the challenges that I mentioned of sustainable development, shortcomings, climate change, global conflicts, the worst impact is borne by the developing countries, by countries of the global south. So it's a very important platform, Mark, to articulate what's really going on in the present and what could we as international community could do differently.
Shubhendu Ghosh from New York, thanks very much. Now, still to come here on DD India News Hour. Shubman Gill and Rishabh Pant hit centuries against Bangladesh in the first test in Chennai. Well, Afghanistan has won the first ever one-day international series against South Africa. And in football, Cristiano Ronaldo helps Al Nassr beat Al Ettifaq 3-0 in the Saudi Pro League.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Moving on to our next story. The Sri Lankan government imposed a nationwide curfew. This happened on Saturday and it's going to on till Sunday morning. This is because the polls closed in that country's presidential election, and employees in essential services, travelers to and from the airport, and personnel who are engaged in election duties, they of course are exempt as long as they provide authorized documents or travel proof. Security officials were seen patrolling the streets and setting up checkposts on Colombo's high streets. Record rains in Japan's Noto region killed at least one person on Saturday and prompted evacuation orders for tens of thousands. The rain caused blackouts for more than 6,000 households. 7 people, including 4 working on earthquake reconstruction, went missing. Calls for rescue swamped the fire department. Hourly rainfall hit a record, in fact 12.1 centimeters on Saturday morning, local time in Wajima, while the neighboring Suzu received 8.45 centimeters in an hour, which is also an all-time high. These visuals, they showed brown mud water turning streets into rivers in Wajima, and cars were half submerged. The 7.6 magnitude quake killed more than 3,000 people in Suzu, Wajima and surrounding areas. In the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl, in fact, India on Saturday dispatched the first tranche of humanitarian aid to St. Vincent and the Grenadines for rehabilitation of settlements in that country. The 10-tin aid consists of sleeping bags and hygiene products. India's Ministry of External Affairs said that the second tranche of items worth 60 tons will be dispatched via sea. More news now from India. And India's Secretary in the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Leela Nandan, is going to be addressing the Summit of the Future. In fact, she did so at a side event at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. And she highlighted India's commitment to youth action on a global scale. India's Education and Health Ministries jointly issued an advisory to Chief Secretaries of States and Union Territories for effective implementation of tobacco-free educational institutions guidelines and manual, with an aim to protect future generations by raising the awareness of harmful effects of tobacco. The closing ceremony of a joint military exercise codenamed Yudh Abhyas 24 between the Indian Army and the US Army was held at the Mahajan Field Firing Range in the western Indian state of Rajasthan. And the exercise focused on counterterrorism operations in semi-urban and semi-desert terrain under the United Nations' mandate. The Indian Air Force's Cheetal helicopter showcased its air might in the rough terrain of Leh and Ladakh on Saturday. The Indian Army showcased its rescue and slithering operations as well in challenging conditions in the Union territory. Sports stories now. Bangladesh need 357 runs to win the first test in the test series against India, and the first test is at Chennai. At the end of day 3, Bangladesh were at 158 for the loss of 4 wickets as early stumps were taken because of bad light. And for Bangladesh, Najmul Hussain Shanto remained unbeaten on 51. He's the captain of the team. And for India, Ravichandran Ashwin started bowling well. He didn't get a wicket in the first innings and followed up his 100. In fact, he batted well in the first innings, but in the second innings, he's bowled well, 3 for 63 currently. Earlier, Shubman Gill and Rishabh Pant's stuns helped India set a target of 515 runs, giving Bangladesh a huge mountain to climb to win this test. India declared at 287 for 4 on day 3. Pant had scored 109 runs coming back from an injury, and after a long time, it was a wonderful knock. And Gill hit 119 runs, fluent and smooth, and poetry in motion. And returning to Test cricket after a gap of more than 600 days, Rishabh Pant, as we talked, scored his 6th Test 100 against Bangladesh in the first Test at the Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai. The 26-year-old equaled the legendary Indian captain MS Dhoni's record for the most Test hundreds by a wicketkeeper.
Rishabh Pant made a triumphant return to Test cricket after 637 days, crafting a brilliant century to mark his comeback. Walking in during the 20th over of India's second innings, Pant faced a tense situation with India losing Virat Kohli for 17 and the top order faltering. Pant steadied the innings, forming a crucial partnership with Shubman Gill. On day 2, he played cautiously, guiding India through a tricky phase. As day 3 began, Pant displayed patient approach, resisting his usual attacking instincts. In the opening hour, he focused on shoring up India's position, leaving risky shots behind in favour of solid defence. His half-century came off 88 balls, and evidence of his newfound maturity and tactical awareness. Pant and Gill picked up the scoring pace after their 50s. The runs began to flow as Pant shifted from a defensive mindset to his more familiar attacking style. The duo capitalized on easier batting conditions, putting Bangladesh under further pressure. Pant reached his 6th Test century, equalling MS Dhoni's record for the most centuries by an Indian wicketkeeper, but in just 34 matches compared to Dhoni's 90. Pant's inning ended at 109 when he attempted to clear Mehdi Hassan's delivery but mistimed the shot, resulting in a return catch. Though his knock ended, Pant's measured approach and ability to adapt highlighted his evolution as a key player. His century not only steadied the Indian innings but also reinforced his reputation as a game-changer player capable of delivering under pressure. Narayan Singh's report for DD India.
Well, Afghanistan won the first one-day international series against Sri Lanka thanks to Rashid Khan's brilliant spell and Ramanullah Gurbaz's stun. This is their first series win against South Africa after beating South Africa for the first time ever in 2 days. Afghanistan scripted history by beating South Africa in the second ODI, and this is to clinch the series. Afghanistan thrashed South Africa by 177 runs. That's the biggest ODI win in terms of runs. And Ramanullah Gurbaz hit 105, and Afghanistan, he's the first Afghanistan man, in fact, now to hit 7 ODI hundreds. Afghanistan put 311 for 4 on the board, and South Africa were bundled out for 134, courtesy some spectacular bowling by Rashid Khan. He took 5 wickets, and Karote, in fact, also bagged 4 wickets. So what's happened is that Afghanistan will now look to whitewash South Africa, a clean sweep in the final on Sunday. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, you get the latest news from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. That app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. There it is. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.